Just going to look or to do the wrap-up of the voting roadmap that we've endured from the 11th of January 2021 until this day. With me in studios is my own colleague here, James Mututa. You're very welcome, Ndugu Mututa.
It's my pleasure.
Welcome back from Bududa, where you were, to the send-off of the Umukuka, Weba Masava.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for representing us. Now, joining us in studios is the chairman-elect for Wakiso District. Do we call you the honorable as well? I need to know, because, you know, politicians love their titles like religious leaders.
They have been always called us honorables, though personally I dispute that title. Not only to we in local governments, but entirely I don't see honorables in Uganda.
If you go by, you don't even see honorables in Uganda. Okay. Well, Chairman Matialo Wangabwanika for Wakiso District is actually with us in studios, and he's been given another lease of office, another term in office. He's the newly elected chairperson for Wakiso District. Well, first and foremost, congratulations for having gone through that.
Thank you.
How was the exercise to start with?
Well, I would say, of course, since I belong to local government, I will debate locally.
Exactly.
In that I will not go beyond what
you talk about local governments.
So, yeah, I mean, you have been asking about the exercise. That's what I'm saying, that I may not give a picture of the entire exercise in the country, but at least in the district of Wakiso, it was relatively peaceful, with some scant, irregularities, as you expect. And the only bad thing, of course, the presidential was smooth. The turn-up was quite enormous. But as usual, as I've been appealing to different stakeholders, when it came to local government, the number came down. The numbers came very down, very low turn-up. And you can't imagine, like in Wakiso, we have 1.1 million registered voters.
Yes.
But on the day of electing the district, the turn-up was, I think, 250 something.
That's about 20% only.
Yeah. And of course, I've been trying to look out, not scientifically, but specifically, to see what are the reasons as to why people don't tend to turn up for
after the presidential MP's election.
One, I think it is a general perception from the mindset, even from the center, that local governments are even local in nature and thinking, that they are ignored, and you find that even the public, because we don't have civic education. Civic education, as per the Constitution, is a mandate of the Electoral Commission. People, to be educated, to know why we have this. But I think it is budgetary not possible. And of course, civic education would also be done by other stakeholders like political parties, but they are more or less non-functional. So, people are excited on presidential and parliamentary. And you'll find that after those two
elections, the steam goes down.
Suffice to mention that every delivery of service concerning a common man is done by local governments.
By the local governments.
Now that is one thing. Then secondly, I'll blame it to the framers of the
Local Government Act?
No.
Or the Constitution?
No, I think the authorities that give us, who determine the public holidays. For instance, yes, whenever we are going to vote for
to government, you talk about now the Prime Minister or the public service.
Because whenever we are going for polls for presidential, parliamentary, they give us public holidays. But the rest of the elections,
there are no public holidays.
So you will find that people, both from the private and public sector, are always engaged in their businesses, and they turn up because normally, much as they say that voting will begin at 8 and ends at this time, you may find that at as late as 10 o'clock people have not started. So that also is another problem. Then last, I think local governments, of course, depend even on the budgetary location. That's why you'll find so many people rushing for parliamentary, For instance, I can tell you, like in Wakisa, I have 8 MPs plus
Exactly.
the woman DP.
I went to that.
The woman member of parliament is the 9th. The chairman, LC5, who has all the same equivalent qualifications.
Who has all the constituencies?
His remuneration is 17,000. I mean, 1.7 million shillings.
1.7 million shillings.
One member of parliament without other attachments of his emoluments or her emoluments is 28 million and above. You will find that chairman 5 of that district will take 1.5 years of the salary of 1.5 years
to make 1 month.
to make 1 month of a
member of parliament.
So all those
and that gives you some competition, I'm very sure. It gives you some competition, and I've also had a problem with the legislature having harmony with local governments. I mean, I think it's actually, but we are happy that you are actually with us here. We'll look at these budgetary issues, we'll look at service delivery themselves, we'll look at quite a number of things, because we know that decentralization had actually intended that services come, they trickle down, they are cascaded to us, the persons, the people down there, which seems not to be working out, but I'm very sure that we have politically decentralized. We just need to see how to actually decentralize the other things. Ndugu Mtuta, just coming to this conversation here with the chairman, Mr. Lwanga Bwanika here. Look at this particular election and maybe the general perspective of it. He made a very good observation that when we talk about local governments, people in their thinking actually think it is even a local process. Everything about it is local. So they even do not want to get into, to entangle themselves in local settings and local everything.
First of all, I thank the chairman for raising some of these issues. These are some of the things we have been looking at in the past as we have been looking at these elections. The first thing is that I think the government needs to do something. And again, I think the chairman and the other chairmen under their umbrella of Olga need to do something. Because, like, how can you have a chairman in one district? He has about 9 members of parliament. Constituencies.
Yes, 9 members of parliament, and if one member gets 28, like he says, or call it 30, which is 270 million shillings every month for members of parliament, all of them combined get about 300 million shillings a month. And the chairperson is only getting 1.7 million.
And 1.7 million comes after a lot of struggle, because remember, initially the chairpersons were being remunerated by their own councils and the districts, because then they were able to collect certain revenues within the district. But until the time that they are no longer collecting that much money that can even be available for a chairman, even just for fuel. So then the government comes in with the top up of the salaries, which was a good gesture. But now I think something needs to be done, because for the MPs, you know, for them, they decide how much they can earn and when to earn it. Unfortunately for the chairpersons of the districts, they cannot do that. So I think there's also need to harmonize this issue of payment to political leaders, the salaries and other movements. Because then, if in fact, like last time we analyzed, we said, you can take a whole year without a member of parliament attending parliament, and we have seen some of them, other than attending parliament, also keeping quiet. But you cannot do so without a district council sitting and looking at the projections and the projects, and that cannot happen. So if we appreciate that the district councils are important, and in which case they are, then the way they are remunerated also need to be looked at. Maybe we need to have a commission that will harmonize the salaries of civil servants and politicians and political leaders in this country. So that, I mean, for me as a civil servant, if you also told me to decide my salary, I would have decided what I would want. But even then, you remember, you just keep space watched. You are going to see the new members of parliament. I think the first sitting will also be discussing something about
the discussion about that, because they will be just starting their journeys.
Yes. So, like I has put it, there is need to look into the remunerations of these other lower councils, because really you cannot have a chairperson managing 9 constituencies and yet a member of one of the constituencies earns number of times up than the chairman. So I think there's
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Lwanga, come to me on this particular one here. Well, I don't know how many elective officers you have in Wakiso district. Elective officers. Now we have you, the chairman, and your council, which is how many people?
So we previously have been 52. Now the EC increased them by 100% because now we are 116.
Wow.
So you are a chairman presiding of a council of 116.
Yeah.
All these are the districts.
Yeah.
How many others now?
Lower local governments, we have 27 lower local governments.
In Wakiso?
Yeah. 9 town councils, 8 divisions, 4 municipalities, 6 sub-counties.
9 town councils, 4 divisions.
How
many municipalities?
These are 9 town councils, 4 municipalities,
6 divisions.
No, there are 7. No, 8 divisions. Then 6 sub-counties.
6
sub-counties.
Sub-counties.
Yes.
So all these make 20-something.
Yeah, of course. Like you see, divisions, town councils, and sub-counties are all LC3s. It is just the semantics. Right?
Exactly. They're all LC3s.
The municipalities is just LC4. So there are 27 at the lower local government of LC3, and there are 4 municipalities making it 31. 31 lower local governments in total. One of the district's jurisdiction.
And on average, how many are in every local council in there? The chairperson and the councillors, even at how many are they?
Really, it depends.
It depends.
Varies,
Yeah, it varies. Like I've told you, it used to be 1 woman councillor.
Because you have now an extra older person, I think.
Yeah, we have extra older persons are 2, female and male. We have 2 workers, representative of
Female
workers,
and male.
female and male. We have 2 youth, female and male. We have 2 disabilities,
The PWDs.
female and male. Those are the special interest groups, I think. And besides that, that one has been existing. But previously it was like each sub-county could be represented by directly elected 2 councillors and 1 woman, specifically for women slot. Now they increased depending on how do you call it, the quota, I mean the population. You'll find that in each sub-county where you used to have 2 or 3 councillors, now represents 8.
So ideally, the numbers are even more with the special interest groups, as opposed to the direct election.
Sure.
That's what it is. And now, just look at that big. I'm looking at all these very many positions.
Yeah, true.
And we talk about decentralization and effectiveness to service delivery. Did you look at these as giving us services, or we only just decentralize politically to reduce some noise that
I think so.
Bwanika has a job, Jagan has a job, Muruta has a job, but does it help at the end of the day to give us services back there?
In fact, that question has 2 dimensions. One is whether we still have decentralization. It's a very big topic. Contestable.
Exactly.
Whether we still have decentralization.
If we go by its true definition, that is a contestable issue. Then 2, about service delivery vis-a-vis the number of representatives. Actually, today in Uganda we have spent a lot in terms of administration and political leadership than the real service delivery. We had a lot of arguments with Honorable Majezi, and he promised us to work on it. As the EC came up with that number of MOPs, councillors, we engaged the minister and we said, now you are creating wars. For instance, in Wakiso, the 52, we had problems because remember, the allowances come from locally raised revenue. It is computed 20% of the previous financial year. For instance, now the council which will swear in May, they will depend on the money we have collected in the previous financial, that is 1920, and 20% of it will be the money to be distributed among the councillors as their allowance. And remember now, the previous year we had COVID. You will find that if we have been normally collecting like 6 billion, we may end up having 1 billion for the financial year, meaning that all the expectations of these councillors is going to create conflicts and fights. So instead of delivery of services, instead of discussing issues, we are going to spend more than 1-2 years
discussing
fighting why they came with others sold their, I mean, their property, thinking that they have come to earn. You see, that is one. Then two, people have not really addressed the issue of taxation per se. You see, decentralization, before we go to its merits and demerits, currently a district like Wakiso is very rich, but people have failed to analyze what actually goes to the district and what goes to the center. Districts are left with these vendors, the tomato sellers. Districts are left with trading licenses, which are annual. You know, a supermarket can pay a trading license of 300,000 per annum. That's all. A petrol station can pay taxation. I mean, a petrol station can pay 200,000 trading license to that district.
And that's an annual license.
And that the business is finished. But remember, that petrol station, all the services it needs are done by the district. However, on every liter of fuel, you tax Uganda Revenue Authority gets money. You see? So your district takes only 200,000 for my petrol station. Then Mututa comes and fuels one car for 200,000, which is money paid the whole year. True. Yes. Then Uganda Revenue Authority will get money
for every liter.
For every liter, and very huge money. So you find that all the industries, all the factories, all the supermarkets, all the businesses, the hardwares you have are paying huge amounts of money, but they are paying to the center. Okay? Now you end up with this very small locally raised money from vendors. From there, out of the money you've collected, thank you very much, out of the money you have collected, there is also now another scenario where they introduced single treasury account, STI. I don't know whether people are aware of it. That whatever you collect from locally raised, you send it to Bank of Uganda. Bank of Uganda will remit it back to you when they are convinced that. And I can tell you, like in Wakiso, since the first quarter of this financial year, they've not remitted even a coin. We have been collecting money, sending it to Bank of Uganda, but they've never remitted. In that we don't even have fees.
How much do you remit to the STA?
Single treasury account, it depends. You see, money collected from locally raised. Leave around the other indirect tax which is taken by Revenue Authority. But the money we collect, like vendors, the markets, tax parking, salons,
that you collect as well from the taxes.
We send it to the single treasury account, Bank of Uganda.
So that's where everybody brings. Mayuga brings there, Tororo brings there, and all local governments.
And it is at their will that they will,
at their discretion.
At their discretion to remit back. We have been arguing, like now in this financial year, they remitted back the money for the first quarter, which was July, August, and September. Since then, they have not remitted even a coin.
Okay.
Today we are in January. I mean, we are in February. So, and you realize that local governments are neglected, local governments are cheated. And all the money, if you compute the gross domestic product from Wakiso, you'll find that we contribute like 30% of the national GDP.
Mr. Lwanga is actually provoking a very important and good debate here, which is very informative to all of us now. When you look at the figures here for the financial year 2019-2020, you'll notice that about 1.1 trillion shillings for local governments remained at the MDAs. Now, this is there. 1.1 trillion shillings remained at the MDAs. Money that was meant for local governments. Now, the other thing also is when you look into our budget financing, you notice that the local government financing has also reduced steadily. We now talk about, I think, 9 or 8% from what used to be about 25, 26.
It's now 8.
It's now just 8%. implement, you know, of, and now, when you talk about service delivery, when you talk about implementing government programs, local governments are actually at the forefront. But yet again, we're seeing this. What do you think could be the problem that we're supposed to address now? We have voted for you and several others. We've given you a council of another 100 people. Now, we've already given them jobs there. We're only thinking whether they actually even know what these all things here mean.
What awaits them.
What awaits them in a way. But at the end of the day, I, a resident of Wakiso, wants services.
Well, I think fundamentally we need to address the issue of decentralization. We need to revisit it because it's a simple definition: actual transfer of real power and resources from the center to lower local governments. That's the simple definition of local government
decentralization.
Decentralization. But what is happening now? For instance, I can tell you. By the way, there was a time, you remember when there was an omnibus bill in Parliament about this Kisanja, removal of Kisanja. Some years back, all members of Parliament and members of the body politic concentrated on the term limits without looking at what was in the bill in as far as local governments are concerned. It is that day they passed that bill into an act that local governments became no more. The decentralization was finished. Reason, let me tell you. For instance, we used to have, we know the chief accounting officer is the one in charge of finances of that district, the cow. The district is supposed to have a district service commission, which is in charge of firing and hiring the civil service. In the original Bidandisari decentralization, it was the district service commission thereby recruiting the chief accounting officer. So that is real power, because the accounting officer is in charge of what you have collected and implementing the programs and projects. So now he was taken by, they were taken over by Ministry of Local Government. And at least a minimum of 2 years, a cow will be leaving that district. So you can imagine an accounting officer who will come just for 2 years.
Before they settle in,
another one comes. And you know, the one who hires, the one who appoints has the power over him or her. Meaning that he's in charge of implementing the services, but you don't have, you don't have the powers because it's not you who appointed him or her. That is one.
Cows are under PSST.
Yeah. Not PSST, PS local government.
The PS local government, not the PSST.
Okay. PS local government. Of course, when the local government has appointed, he writes to the PSST and confirming that this one is the accounting officer. In this financial year, they are always, with the PSST, the appointments of being an accounting officer is annual in every financial year. So it is renewed in every financial year. But officially in the local government, they serve for 2 financial years and they leave to another station. So I was just giving you some few examples of decentralization when we centralized. Of course, the other single treasury account is a clear indicator of centralization, that you collect taxes and you send them to the center. Then the essence,
which would have been the other way.
That is one. Then 2 is the appointment of the accounting officer. Then 3 is about that taxation I've talked about. That if we were in charge of collecting all the taxes, and maybe the center says that we need this percentage, that would be decentralization. But it's the other way around, that you are remaining with these direct taxes, which are very meager, and the bigger chunk of money goes to the center. And at the end of it, it's distributed to even unviable, politically created districts. So you find that people in Wakiso will be grumbling all the time, because whenever you pay your taxes, you'll have to look after those districts which are
which don't have much to bring, which don't have so many petrol stations like Wakiso and all these industries like Wakiso. Ndukumututa, that is now the reality of decentralization in this country, and of course that's where we are. Chairman Ranga here noted or said, when we did the presidential parliamentary elections, all of us woke up very early in the morning in big numbers. You could actually see the so many long queues. Thereafter, because the subsequent elections came on days which were not declared public holidays, people could take their sweet time. We are working today, people are already in the marketplace, and the elections are going on. Voting is actually going on somewhere else. So it is actually now to whom it may concern many people. But of course, after this evening, you will hear so-and-so has been voted for, so-and-so has been elected. Do you think these elected leaders, especially at the lower governments, know what awaits them in the reality of service delivery to the wananchi?
Actually, it's not only people at the lower governments, even MPs. Because when you see the amount of money that people have been pushing in the elections, then I really can believe that they don't know what they're in for. Because if you are going to spend close to 1 billion shillings in an election, even when you are an MP, how much money are you going to earn?
But even if it was only 100 or 200 million shillings, it's still too much money.
Yes, it's still too much money. So other than people wanting to be there and then say tunalabireyo, it is I think a problem of trying to understand exactly what you are going to, and that's why sometimes they make even unrealistic promises and pledges. You are going to make a road, you are going to make a school, that is also there. But coming back to the chairman's issue of the cows and decentralization, of course, this is something I've been discussing here, that either decentralization was brought to Ugandans when we were not ready for it, or we didn't know how to handle decentralization. First of all, the genesis towards even why the cows were removed from the districts back to the center, I think the thinking was there was a lot of, most of the budgets of the districts were being majorly funded by the central government. But then when the districts appoint the cows, there was a problem of competence. Now, other than that also, there was the fear, because the cows would say, I mean, a chairman has helped you, or someone at the service commission has helped you to be the cow, and next time when they come to office and they're asking for some fuel at least, you should also be of manner to respond. So there was that pressure by the chief administrative officers from the political leadership. It's because they're the ones who are appointing them, and if you are not going to work with them closely, including, now the chairman has given you a scenario of people are coming to office, but the allowances are not there. So the council
and from the communities where they come, they see more good move into, and they expect that actually lives should begin changing. Automatically.
They should see the life changing. Now, when they want to have councils, because they are limited, I think in a year they sit how many times?
Because in every 2 months we have one council.
Yes.
In every 2 months.
Yeah, so
that's
we have
six times in a year. And you have only 4 years. So it is only through those sittings these councillors are going to have money. And plus, when they go for monitoring and some of those engagements, when they go for workshops and seminars, it's when they are going to get some little money. But if they are going to tell the cow they will need to sit, and the cow is going to say, but we don't have money. Sometimes actually you don't have money, like has put it. And then the cow is going to be a victim. So then I think there was the security of the cow saying, now look, let these people be appointed from the center. But for me, still, I don't believe that was the best, maybe in the interim, but that shouldn't have been the best idea. What could have been done was that we need now to ramp up districts like in sub-regions, that we have one service commission that can recruit people in that region. We can say, for example, in Central, we can have one service commission instead of having it with public service, because this will avoid nepotism, will avoid bribery. They will recruit a cow for Masaka, a cow for Wakiso, a cow for Liaton, but they are all recruited from one central area, not public service, because public service could be left with that, but we can have the decentralization in kind of a region. That could be okay. And of course, we've also been looking at issues of when you recruit even other civil servants, teachers. We have had cases of district public services, people recruiting their wives, their sons. So that could also help, that in a place where you have many tribes, many religions, many different types of social nature, then a regional tier kind of as a service commission would do better than just a district commission, because the district commission, so also some of them, like has put it, they had issues of getting a competent staff at the members of the commission. We have had some people, and even the Local Government Act allows that districts can come together for that purpose, and they form a commission or even the procurement that can work for those districts. Now, the issue of taxation, I think there's a disharmony when it comes to government collecting revenue and then the reimbursement. Because if you allow decentralization to happen, then let it be. But we have seen now government trying to recoup, to bring back the services that had been decentralized back to the center. And like I said, the issues have been of especially competence. But then when we're talking about the competence, and he has also put it, you are going to cut down smaller units. Now, as you cut down those smaller units, the issues of quality of leadership is also affected. If you have been having a council of about 100 members of council or 70 members of council, now you have cut smaller things and you are going to get twice as much as that number. First of all, the same resource envelope remains. You are not going to expand, but you are going to increase on the number of the elected members. But at the same time, you are going to affect the quality of leaders who are coming to these councils. Now, if you are going to affect the leadership, the quality leadership at the council, then trust me, that could also be reflected even at the member of parliament, because more units are being created, but the resource envelope remains as the same, or if not less than what it is.
Thank you so much, Mututa. Now picking your mind, Chairman Bwanika here, he's talked about something which I think is important for you to address us here on the quality. Now, you will notice that for political leaders, it is just minimum qualification. That's all we need. And we talk about competencies here. But yet again, for technical offices, for the cow, for the whatever those are, there are set standards of qualifications that we need to see. Now, you'll find that there are lots of discrepancies amongst you, the political leaders, that you have a political leader, Matia Lwanga Bwanika, whose academic qualifications are not debatable. Then you find another Jagenda Semakora, chairman of another district, who just simply has the basics because he's popular and you actually had to get there. And you are dealing with technical people who are highly sophisticated and they are too technical and competent or even incompetent. In a way, looking at that vis-a-vis service provision to the people, because at the end of the day, you are supervising somebody that you do not know what actually he or she is doing. We're looking at this because we've seen this happen. Does that solve the problem? Does it help us anyway, anyhow, or it is fate that we leave to anybody until the next 5 years end and come back again to the people to ask for another vote?
Actually, there has been a disservice. I remember Parliament, this ongoing Parliament, which is almost
the 10th Parliament.
There was a very big debate, and I think an amendment went to Parliament, and it was only not signed by the President. And
it's waiting for his assent.
I think he brought it back without, consenting with what the Parliament had agreed. You see, local governments, for the district chairperson, you must have qualifications equivalent to a member of parliament or presidential candidate. For only the chairperson
of the district.
Yes.
Councillors, whether you don't know how to write your name.
A councillor comes from anyhow, anywhere.
There are no qualifications for councillors. There are no qualifications for chairpersons, divisions, sub-counties, municipalities, and sub-counties or mayors. There are no minimum. There are no requirements. Even if you don't know how to write your name, you will qualify. If you have a Dagamundu.
The only requirement is 18 years and above.
And having registered as a voter in that area. Now, you have addressed one of the problems, that official language
is English.
Official documents,
Article 4 of the Constitution,
and all official documents, whether
communication,
budgets,
memos and anything, they come in English.
They come in English.
But if you didn't go to school, even Luganda, you may fail to read Luganda.
Now, and they will tell you that a sub-county chief, we call them senior administrative assistants, so a minimum of a degree.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, he's being supervised by a chairperson
who has no qualification.
Who is only, and at the end of it, it becomes a quagmire. So that has affected a lot.
Exactly.
Then he talked about the recruitment at a regional level. And to me what came in my mind is an indirect answer of revisiting what Justice Benjamin Odochi found from the population during the constitutional making. Yes, that we need that kind of federalism. Because let me tell you, by having Butambala out of Mpiji, when it is growing only in Tangawuzi, and you get Gomba with only
Tangawuzi and Mairungi,
then you from yes, you take Butambala, you take a Gomba, you see, you create five districts from one region or whatever, and at the end of it, you will find that money is needed to run those districts. Remember, we have invested very much in administrative costs. I mean, like a district has an RDC, a DISO, and the DISO has PISOs, VISOs, resource. You see? And that has nothing to do with the delivery of service. You get? Because RDC is a representative of the president, that's all. But he must have a vehicle. She gets salary. She has. I mean, normally they are the president's office, but they don't have offices. It's we who sacrifice offices. For instance, for an agricultural officer, we give it to the RDC. Now he gets the furniture, he gets everything, as you know, all the entitlements. But it's just a presidential representative. But remember, even the chief administrative officer, by virtue of coming from the center, is also representing the center. You see? Now that's duplication of duties, and so on and so forth. So look at the administrative costs of all the number of councillors, all the government structures and organs, vis-a-vis the output in delivery of service. So if we have, for instance, if we talk about regional recruitment of civil servants, then we should also have a regional government. Because the bigger the money or the resources are put in the pool, then you will go to real delivery of services. Other than, look at a scenario where each district collects 6 billion shillings. Local residue revenue, and 10 districts, that is 60 billion. Meaning you can construct a 30-kilometer road by term.
Out of the money. Yes. Honorable Chairman, your terms called governors.
Yeah, true, sure.
Governor Matiaro. We'll just hold it here briefly. We want to go to the Electoral Commission, where our troops also are, to let us know what is actually happening there. Michael Jordan Lukomwa is right now at the Electoral Commission. To you over there, Michael Jordan Lukomwa.
With the chairman and Mr. Mututa there, but we are here at the Electoral Commission. We're going to talk to Mr. Bukenya Paul, the spokesperson of the commission. We want to know how they have managed through. Today they're having the exercises going on for the LP3 councils and chairpersons that are ongoing all over the country, but this could be the last exercise, the last part of the whole exercise of the elections 2021. We want to know how they have managed and where there are gaps, how are they handling as a commission. We're going to speak to Mr. Paul Bukenya. We are in his office here at the Electoral Commission, that is in Ginger Road. Mr. Bukenya, good afternoon.
Yeah, it's afternoon. Good afternoon to Jordan. Good afternoon to Jordan, and good afternoon to our viewers on UBC TV. And good afternoon to you, Mr. Semakula, and Mr. Vanika, who is chairperson of Wakiso District. That's my district, so it makes him my chairperson. And my good friend, Tuta, yes.
So, Mr. Bukenya, we started with a roadmap and went in. It was with a lot of questions. How are you going to handle it with the COVID-19 lockdown and the challenges that came with the pandemic? How have you managed this level as the Electoral Commission? How would you describe this process by this time?
And we launched a roadmap for 2021 general elections in December 2018, and we started rolling out activities in the year 2019. We got, of course, good support from stakeholders. There's been participation through the various activities we've done with the people registering voters, organizing polling stations, demarcation of electoral areas, and displaying the register, up to nomination of candidates where people presented themselves to contest at various levels. So this has been a very participatory exercise. And then, of course, when we are starting the first activities, COVID-19 came in and disrupted the schedules that we had, affecting everyone. All of us have been affected by COVID-19, but then the Ugandans came back strong and were able to work together and to manage this exercise in a very complicated, very regulated health environment because of the problem of COVID-19. So when we look at this as Electoral Commission, and look at the journey that started in 2018, the publication of the roadmap, and now today we have the last national election, that is local council 3 elections, or election of chairperson and councillors at sub-county, town council and municipal division. We see a job that has been done well within the timelines that are set in the constitution. We see a very, very, very important milestone that we've reached on. So it has been a challenging journey, but there's been a spirit of determination, working with various stakeholders, working together to overcome the challenges, especially COVID-19.
First, you said everyone was affected by the COVID-19 pandemic, and you said it has been a challenge.
Yes, sure.
As the Electoral Commission, the politicians are complaining about the limitations on campaign space and things like that due to COVID-19. What were your challenges? What hurdles did the COVID-19 bring to you in as far as organizing an election exercise is concerned? 2021. What are those challenges that you faced?
Well, first of all, our roadmap was affected. Special interest groups, which are supposed to start in April of 2020, had to be delayed by more than 90 days. And when we resumed the revised roadmap in June 21st, I think, we had now to reschedule the exercises to start almost in August. That's quite a very, very tight time frame within which to work. So it affected us. The way we do vote education ordinarily, going to markets and parking our vehicle and people coming to our truck and listening then to the music, the drama that is done, and then you give out posters, flyers, and you give a voter education message. We couldn't do that. We had to change all those traditional means. The candidates themselves, they did find it easy campaigning in a regulated manner, in a regulated environment. Campaigns are naturally, by nature, exciting times. And there's a lot of physical interaction. And now we had to modify the guidelines to limit the number of people who can attend a campaign meeting. And we had to stop processions. So it affected all that. And in the course of implementing the COVID-19 regulations, there would be confrontations because we could see that there were violations at one time. Compliance has not been easy, and enforcing compliance it has stretched the stakeholders, Electoral Commission, the police, the candidates themselves, their supporters. So this has been quite a challenge, but I'm glad that Ugandans have faced it and accepted that it's a challenge, and they've taken it on. And we've had elections. We've had successful elections at all levels. Parliamentary, we had successful elections, you could say 99.8%, because out of 353 constituencies, 101 constituencies didn't vote, and they have actually now voted. Local government councils, they voted, except one district, for district chairperson, the district in Champwanzi, where we had a mismatch and the ballot papers, which we are correcting and are giving them a new date. Councillors, we had some councillor elections not held, but their performance, if you look at the returns, it's 98% performance. And now we are at the municipalities and state divisions have their elections. In other words, if you have to talk about Parliament is now full, special interest groups have had their elections, and now we are at local council 3. So if you have to look at what's required of us, our mandate, we've been able to overcome the mandate, the challenges, and have leaders elected at the various levels.
Yes, I wanted to go to something to do with voter education, but I'll bring it later. There's something small I need us to talk about. The mismatch of electoral materials. I covered the Lord Mayoral elections around Kampala. And in Kabowa, there is a polling station that received just a copy of the declaration forms, and they had to do a number of things that delayed the electoral process. Somewhere they brought ballot papers that had different photographs. Then you're talking about a district that again had mismatching materials.
Yeah.
How does that come about? All the time that you're given to prepare, and how does that come about?
Of course, the number of volumes that are involved is quite enormous, and when we look at the number of elections that had to be suspended, it's far less than not actually would ordinarily happen with such volumes. If you want to compare with the processing that we go through, you could look at the people we nominate who are in such high numbers. You know, this election has had the highest number of candidates nominated,
Yes.
for local government especially. The variations are many, and for example, if we are to look at if we are to use, for example, photographs on council elections for today, the ones that we've had today, would require the same time that UNEB needs to organize the candidates' classes, because it takes, they're registered, I think, starting from first term, when examinations are in November. But remember, we nominate in September, elections are in January. So the times are short. But then there's something that happened. Although a lot of effort was put into proofreading and verifying to confirm that nothing goes wrong, certainly one or two issues came up and skipped us. But also it had to do with our security protocol that we put up this time. The ballot paper and the declaration of results form, as it was signed off and printed in the factory in Abu Dhabi, for example, that is the same way it came up to the polling station. We did not look at it again. Not that, you know, because we wanted to avoid leakage, and this one has been
how does that
leakage free.
No, so an election is a sensitive thing.
Yeah, it is.
Politicians understand it, actually they interpret it in a different way,
Yeah.
and so do voters so as well interpret it in a different way. Actually others implicate you of foul play and
No.
things like that.
We took all effort, and there are some areas which had mismatches. We accepted them, we took them up, we suspended the elections there, and we're organizing for them new dates. If you look at the volumes that were handed within a short period of time, of November and December, and then flying back all these things and bringing them here, and not opening them, because not opening them was to protect them from potential leakage. If you open the ballot paper, someone can take a picture and take it on printing and then duplicate, and we get problems in the field. We have managed to avoid leakages this time because of that. But we've also learned from it that much as the success rate is above 90, 98, almost 98% success, there are isolated cases where we saw you know, mismatches. Now a mismatch is still bad, even if it is one. The people have come to vote and then they realize that there's a mismatch. You can't tell them all these things. So we're going to be looking at that back, evaluating how we do this and strengthening our proofreading mechanism. But it has helped us to avoid leakages. We've not had the level that has been feared, or as it would have been like we had in the past. Because we made sure the ballot, the proofreading is done, the declaration of result forms are sealed at factory and delivered, packed and dispatched to the district. They are opened at the polling station. That was a very good security measure.
Okay, I want to talk about voter education. It is still lacking. Would you agree with me in the first place?
Well, we need to...
when you look at, I was at the Tally Center with you for the presidential and parliamentary elections, and the number of invalid votes, in my view, was too high. And the number of people that did not turn up to vote was still high. To me, it means there is a very big number of Ugandans who still don't know why they should go to vote. Secondly, there are people who still can walk to a polling station and they don't know what to do with a ballot. How come? Why do you people as the Electoral Commission wait for 2026, let's say, and start to carry on voter education? Can it be
I think
effective?
there's a challenge there, because we need to look at two things: civic education and voter education. Civic education is very broad, and I think it needs to be strengthened.
But why do we
That's
see
not
that?
that's not our mandate, of course. That is the mandate of the Human Rights Commission. People need to know and exercise their rights, and that includes the right to vote. And now that brings us to voter education. Voter education relates to how to participate in elections. And I think we take responsibility for that. Of course, because of our funding gaps, we do voter education that is activity-based. So we come out to vote educate when there is that particular activity, just because of funding gaps. Otherwise, it should be continuous. That one is a matter that needs to be addressed through funding.
Let me understand it well. So as you budget for an election exercise, let's say 2026, do you not include voter education?
We include that, but, but voter education is supposed to start from now. It should not wait for the electoral cycle, and we've not gotten that funding. That is true. Funding for voter education is gotten during the electoral process, and it goes to address activity-based means when you're doing display of the register. That's when you get the funding for voter education for on a display. Otherwise, ordinarily, we should be getting the same amount of money we need for the 5 years so that we do voter education continuously. In other words, we are not able to sustain a continuous voter education campaign. But to bring you back to this, it is not true.
Before that, don't you see it's affecting your work?
It does.
To continuously do it that
it does, and
wait for activities to come up, then you educate us.
Well, we budget for that, but that's some of the money that we do not get because of funding gaps, even within the national envelope. Because if you know and you follow the budgeting process, not all the money that we ask for is provided to the Electoral Commission. So when it is provided and cut because of what is available in the resource envelope, we have to reallocate and plan for the activities that we have. It affects voter education, certainly. But now to bring you back to it, it is not true that Ugandans don't know that we have elections. They know it. It is known within 5 years. For example, you would not say that people don't know that we have elections.
You see, there's a difference between knowing that there are elections and knowing why one should participate.
So now, we involve mild range of stakeholders to mobilize people to participate in elections. Now, when it comes to voting itself, we do emphasize how to mark the ballot paper. It is one of the most and overemphasized areas of voter education. When we nominate candidates, one of the things that is clear on their posters throughout is how to correctly mark the ballot paper, the tick, or the thumbprint. Our voter education emphasizes that please mark the ballot paper like this. On polling day itself, when you come to the polling station, one of the voter education components that continues up to polling day is how to correctly mark the ballot paper. The tick and the thumbprint, they are shown at the polling station. Now, when you go into the basin to tick, the voter education has continued up to the box, up to the basin, because it is the tick and the thumbprint are even on the ballot paper. So we are interested in also establishing why people do this. But we've already seen some ballot papers. The conduct of supporters or of voters is a factor in validating of votes. And we've done voter education on this. When you get your ballot paper, please don't put any other mark onto it other than the tick or the thumb. Use one of those. But you've seen ballot papers flying around where someone introduces even other characters and draws other symbols onto the ballot paper, including introducing candidates who are not on that particular ballot paper, or even symbols. That already invalidates the ballot paper. Okay. We've seen voters who are excited about the candidates they support. They tick them 4 or 5 times, and then they come and cross out these other voters. Already that becomes an invalid ballot paper. They go to the photo.
Those people know
they know. We've told them that use the tick or the thumbprint. I think the excitement, the conduct of voters needs to be addressed. And we've reached out to candidates that tell your supporters, if they conduct themselves like this, they will spoil their ballot papers. There is a case we investigated because we saw a trend and we feared, and eventually it worked out. It turned out like that. Voters who came to a polling station drunk, and they were even shaking as they marked it, and you could see that there's going to be a problem. We put in procedure, in our procedures, a provision that you can be assisted if you can't correctly mark your ballot. And you could see that these guys have drunk themselves silly, and they're going to make mistakes on the ballot paper, and exactly that's what happened.
2 things, Mr. Bukenya. One, did you see videos on social media and all over the place? People that were taking ballots and stuffing in the buckets and things like that.
We've seen
such information as the Electoral Commission.
We've seen the videos and we've asked police to investigate them, to help us investigate them, because we want to establish what exactly is this. Are they, first of all, you need to ask questions. You don't just take them at face value. Where are these videos? Some of them you can see that their faces you can recognize. Who are these people? Can you track them down? You can even hear some languages that you can recognize. Can we track down up to those places? What happened there? Did our returning officer or presiding officer have a report about this? What exactly happened? Others are very difficult to determine. Someone is putting some papers into what appears to be a ballot box. Is it really a box? We don't see the symbols there. We don't see pictures on the ballot papers. The sizes of the papers are also questionable. Is it ballot papers or they stage manage the video? Others have boxes with tops that we don't use in Uganda. They're used by one of our neighboring countries, which we know. Is that a video from Uganda? Of course not. Why are people flying it around? So I think there are issues that need to be investigated. There are others where we see what appears to be like security officials. So that's why we've said that police come here and help us. And police has taken it up. We're interested in that to find out what happened. And perhaps that explains why when we're declaring results, some stations were left out because they reported malpractices.
Still in that line of malpractices, there are candidates who are already crying foul.
Well, thank you so much, Michael Jordan Lokomwa and Mr. Paul Bukenya, the acting chairperson, the acting spokesperson of the Electoral Commission, just right there at the Electoral Commission offices. Thank you so much for that conversation. Now, back to us in studios. Just before we close this down to have another guest in studios, we want to finish it with Chairman Mattia Lwanga Bwanika from Wakiso. Mr. Lwanga, yes, here are the issues, and of course, we're trying to look into quite a number of issues here and analyzing them. And the very simple and bold question is, what is the future like for local governments, especially when you talk about service delivery to the people? Because by and large, and at the end of the day, the Wananchi, especially in Wakiso, I am one of your residents, we need services.
You need services, of course, and we know why we are there. We are entitled to deliver services. So it is a question of every individual at all various levels of management, governance, civil society, that we agitate with the powers that be, that we need a fundamental reform and a revisit in how local governments operate. In fact, either they can decide to centralize, and it's known that all the structures of local government
have went back to the center.
Yes, like a DC and everything, they are appointed there but to do that job.
Okay.
That is one aspect. Then the other aspect is to swallow the pride that if you want another center of power, let it be as it should be. In other words, there is a Chiganda saying that today local governments are entitled, are supposed to deliver services but without resources, and the resources remain at the center without any obligation to serve. So that's the discrepancy.
Don't you have a united voice for you to actually raise your
that would have been
your budget financing
of course,
from 8 to at least 18?
In fact, it was even more than that.
It was 27, I think.
It has been decreasing day and day.
You at 8 eventually.
So we are now at 8. We may come even at 2. But remember, we don't have access to the budgeting process. Our budget remains at the district level. In fact, there is even this. They give you the IPF. I don't know whether you know that. It is from the Ministry of Finance. They will give you indicative planning figures. If you are talking about education, you should not go beyond this. If you're talking about roads, you shouldn't go beyond this. So it is dictated by the center that the IPF for this financial year in this sector is this. Whether your priorities in the local government is to have a bigger budget in a certain sector, you can't do it because you are dictated from the center. So that's why I've been saying that we need to revisit the decentralization, and we have another setup. Either way, if we can't revisit it what could I say, what can I use, like to fundamentally rectifying it, then we go to centralization, because it's like it's a power struggle between the center and the local government.
Okay.
I can see. Yet we are serving the same person.
Okay.
So if the government feels like there shouldn't be any other power center, they want to do everything, let it be, and it will provide it's sufficient.
Okay.
If it can't, if we have to go decentralization, let us revisit it, and it means like the name suggests.
Okay. Finally, when are you doing my Kaseni Road?
Kaseni
Is it your road?
by the way, according to the national policy, all roads leading to the lake are taken by UNURA.
Okay, so that's UNURA.
It's UNURA.
I need to demand it from Kajina, not from you.
Sure.
Oh, okay. You're lucky on that particular. But thank you so much for visiting us.
Before he goes, because of course there was this issue of low voter turnout, which really has been very significant, I think, across the local governments. But I think in the future they also need to push so that the chairman and the MP and the president
are voted on
are voted on the same day.
Yeah, true.
Because that would maybe help, especially when it comes to this low turnout. That the other, of course, there has been low turnout even at the presidential level, like you saw. That this year the numbers have even dropped further. But still, if they are voted on the same day, the chairman, the MPs, and the president, I think that could address this. Now, there is that pressure with, of the local governments. I know the funding is getting less and less, and resources are not enough. But I think the local governments are not also innocent in this particular problem, because they're the ones who are pushing for the creation of some of these districts and more of these administrative units. Said in Wakiso, for example.
Because the agenda can't seat Bwanika, demands for Entebbe to become
exactly.
its own.
So if we are jumping from creating another half of the population in the council and the administrative units, these are not the central government forcing them, but the local governments are also pushing for this in the guise of service delivery. But that service delivery also has come at a bigger cost than
Well, thank you so much, gentlemen. We'll take a break, and when we return, we'll have another member of parliament in studios talking to us about this particular day. Remember, it is the EC roadmap, at the end of the EC roadmap, or we're wrapping up the roadmap that started in 2018. You just heard from Mr. Bukenya here, and of course, it's ending today. But of course, the entire process shall go until the end of May, when all the elected members here for the different levels get sworn in to again start and commence work as now different leaders at different levels. We'll take a break and return. Thank you so much, Chairman Wanika, for joining us.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Double Data. Airtel introduces Double Data, the biggest deal ever on smartphones in Uganda. Buy a smartphone, 3G or 4G, and get 100% data bonus from Airtel. Airtel is giving you 100% bonus data on all weekly and monthly bundles for every new smartphone connected to Airtel for the first 3 months. Dial *175*9# to enjoy Double Data. Double Data, Double Data. Oh, bino bye biruma bayaye. Airtel, the smartphone network, regulated by Uganda Communications Commission.
The day the world stopped was the day we found where to go. From now on, we're not going to leave anything on our plates, because we've learned to savor the moments that were always there, and they never tasted this good.
It is intellectually engaging.
Court does not sit to waste its time. If you have no defense, it chases you.
It is a ruling on the foundations. Business has been conducted in a certain way.
Banks take money from us, depositors. All of us seated here have got money in the bank. And even before you walk out, they've given that money to somebody else.
Deeply incisive.
Here is a credible alternative political force.
Let's get into this election and let's choose right.
Through that vote, that you will contribute towards building a new Uganda.
Authentically symbolic and insightful.
We should work so hard to evacuate this power.
Behind the headlines, every Wednesday at 10 p.m. with Charles Odong Thor.
A very welcome.
Probably the most experienced talk show moderator in Uganda, with a team of illustrious panelists. Honorable Abdul Katuntu, a seasoned legislator, politician, and senior lawyer. Honorable Margaret Mohanga, a veteran journalist, legislator, entrepreneur, and development consultant. And Ramadan Gobi, an economist and university don.
There is no country which has lost, which has failed or has had collapsed democracy when it is above $6,000. So,
all on your public broadcaster, UBC.
Well, thank you so much, and we'll come back from that short break. We now continue with the discussion here as we wrap up the EC roadmap for 2020-2021, and of course, joining us in studios this afternoon is the Honorable Algon Silas, the Member of Parliament for Kumi Municipality, the incumbent and also the MP-elect. We sure he survived the wave or the wave survived him. But you're very welcome.
Thank you.
To our UBC studios this afternoon, and very good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Well, very importantly, we know that you worked with the Kumi District Local Government and Bukedea District Local Government, and we're now talking about local governments especially. You are a Member of Parliament, and of course, the reason for these local governments was to decentralize services to the people and do a number of things here and there. And what could be your mind on these issues now as a Member of Parliament, but formerly also working with the local governments?
First of all, I need to appreciate the issue of decentralization. Leave alone the challenges, but it is just a very good thing. Imagine if we're electing leaders for the people, but at least here people are electing their own leaders. So it is something so important. And today is such a big day for Uganda. Some people sometimes decide to say, this one now at this LOC 3 level, I should not participate, forgetting that that is now the most crucial part of it. That is at the very basic, the primary level of the community. That's where all the services are really needed. So I think it is something great to have these elections, and it's a big day.
Why do you think people are not forthcoming when it comes to local, apart from it not being a public holiday, but people came overwhelmingly and in big numbers to vote for you to come back to Parliament, and I think people understand when they're voting for their Member of Parliament. You notice that so many people actually know that Honorable Algon is my Member of Parliament, but so many people in Kumi may actually not know who their chairperson of the district is, or their councillors. And their councillors. What do you think is the problem?
One, we can count on fatigue. It is one of the reasons. People get fatigued. And there are also those who are working. People travel long distances to go and vote for their leaders. But after staying for like a week, they feel now it's time to go back and start to work. You may not be able to continue in the village forever. So fatigue is also a part of it. The distance between your voting place and where you work is another issue. And there are so many issues, so many challenges. Sometimes some expected their candidates to win in the first elections, but some of them lost. That appetite also is drained. So it counts on that reasoning. Yes. And then the other issue, if for instance they decided to put these elections to be the first before the rest of the elections, you would have seen the turn up. So when the elections are still fresh, everybody is so eager. After having this and the other and then the other one, people get tired. They get bored. So I think it is what counts. That is what talks to this.
What were you doing at the local government before coming to Parliament? At the different local governments here in Bukedea and in Kumi?
Yes, first of all, I've worked at different levels. I have worked as a stores officer. Yes, assisting in the matters of warehousing. I've also done issues of salaries. I've been in accounts. I'm a professional accountant by training. I have a CPA, Uganda.
Okay.
So this is something that has exposed me to matters of local government. I've worked at all those levels, all the levels. I've been in the sub-county level. I've been in the district. So I have worked closely with the teachers, with the nurses, with what? Being in accounts, you interface with so many people. So I think it has been such a good experience.
And your disappointment to fellow local governments workers now, those who look at you and say, yes, Algon was one of us. Now when he goes to Parliament, we think he knows more about what we go through here. That when it comes to budget appropriations, for example, now for you as a Member of Parliament, you only appropriate a meager 8% to local government administration in this country. And so much money goes into so many other things out there. With the background from local governments, do you think, or don't you think that it's a disservice to local government structures where services actually are, and services would be coming to the people? When they look at you, those that you worked with in Kumi, and they're actually still at local government, for example,
they're still there.
Don't they feel that you've actually not represented them ably? Well, when you do not talk about issues that concern the local government, most especially.
The beauty is that, you know, people understand that the parliament has sort of collective responsibility. You debate, you decide, you do things as a house. You as a member, single member, may not be able to change everything at once. Yes, it is good to have an initiative. You always have that drive. But sometimes you come here and you feel that you can be able to change so many things at a go. But what I've understood the few times I've been here is that you move gradually and things keep on improving. People need to understand you, where you are coming from. You keep on convincing colleagues. And I think it's something that counts. Yes.
Mututa, what needs to be done, and how do you think local governments here should be helped by Aogon, for example, and the team at Parliament collectively?
Unfortunately, for quite some time now, this is the 10th Parliament, and not much has been done. And I've been arguing with colleagues and friends and in Parliament, to the extent now that you have a whole ministry for local government, and they are responsible for the administration of local government. But sometimes we look at the things in a passing way. The chairman has been here with us talking about, we have been talking about the remunerations of chairpersons of the districts. A district has a number of constituents. I don't know how many Kumi has now. But you find that the chairman of the district is remunerated as just like another ordinary civil servant at that level. Sometimes even some cows are even earning more than the chairpersons of the districts, and yet they have a big area to supervise. Of course, when members of parliament are saying, we are going to parliament, our role is to allocate, to discuss, to budget, which is true. But then when you look at a person who is going to implement those budgets, those plans, is earning peanuts, that motivation is problematic. But at the same time, I wonder why. In this country, we have fallen into the structures of our colonizers, and we are still behaving like them. I don't know why. More than 70%, again according to the recent population census, of our people are living in the rural areas. But to the extent that when you look at government, we have a whole minister for urban planning, and this has been from the colonial time, because the colonialists were living in towns, so they want the towns planned, facilitated, electricity, roads and water, and the rural area was not a problem. But today, where we still have 80% of our population living in the rural areas, we still have a whole department and a minister search for urban planning. But you cannot even have less than a minister for rural planning and development. And yet, that's where we have the stock of our people, where our MPs are coming from.
Honorable Aogon, we've noticed, and of course, several studies have showed us that corruption breeds a lot in local governments. And one of the reasons there is, one, the competencies of our leaders at local governments, where the law is very clear that for only the district chairperson, that's where they require qualifications like what you have. But when it gets all to these councillors, and of course cascading it down, is that for as long as you are 18 and above, you are a Ugandan and you actually on the voters register, you can come on. Now, you're going to supervise Aogon, who was a CPA Uganda, and you is supervising, you don't actually just understand anything that you understand is either in Ateso or in Chinyankore or Chiganda or Rumasava, for that matter. You don't need all these things. And you're bringing documents, you're bringing quite a number of things. What you do, and the other thing now, you as a member of parliament, you also qualify to be, you are actually by law, an ex-official member of that commission, that council. Yes, at the district. And we look at all these discrepancies. The corruption that is bred at local governments, do you think when we still have the structures as they are,
with the laws that you made for us, as they still stand, will that help us fight this thing called corruption when you have a very qualified Aogon who is a district chairperson, rather a cow of a district, but you have a very incompetent and non-qualified councillor, Jagenda Semakola, in there.
And I think you have touched something that reminds me about what Parliament just did some few months ago. We stood up, and if you went to the answer of Parliament, you will see that the Parliament rose up and said, for once, let us look at these qualifications and do something. And we debated that. Yes, we debated and we even passed it, by the way, as a house. You remember very well, I think it was the president who decided to
not to assent to it.
Not to assent to it and say, no, my people should leave alone those issues of those qualifications, those are for you people. Let my people come, let my people be there.
As they are.
But for us, we had said, no, let us have people who have the academic qualifications to understand, so that they're able to really internalize. We're talking about the policy matters. Nearly everything is written also in English, not in the local language. How do you internalize? When you talk about issues of accounts now, people are bringing the jargon. A lot of language there which is so different and difficult for people to know and understand. So, inferiority complex, first of all, if you talk about the qualification of the cow and that of the councillor, you don't have a paper. The cow has a master's, he has this, he has hung there on the wall. You see photos of graduation. What are you going to ask him? What are you going to say?
They even do those things.
Yeah, so
they hang photos of graduation.
You have to put it with graduation. This one from UMI, this one from Makerere. Which one did you have? Which photo do you have? Apart from the one of swearing. And also the one of swearing.
The council has only one.
The one for swearing. And even with that swearing, you find that maybe somebody was swearing and the language was difficult. So it was even difficult to read what was written.
The oath.
I swear to, yes, very difficult. So what are you going to do? So I think as a parliament, we've done our best. We tried. We thought the best thing was to really look at the qualifications of the what? Leaders. At the divisions, at some counties, municipalities. Remember now at municipalities, remember all the money which goes from here. For it to have an impact, it must end up down there. I think it touches somebody in the village. But now how do we do these things? Go to the district chambers, go to Kumi and see how elegant our chambers is. But what have you done in terms of empowering the people who are in there?
How big
besides even talking about their qualifications, how much money do we put in helping these people in terms of orientation, capacity building when they're already in there? So it is something still wanting. For us as a parliament, we've done our part. We tried our best. There is a clear record. Anybody can check and prove that, yes, personally I participated and insisted. Yes, people should have what? Qualifications. And the answer is there to speak for us.
How big is your council in Komi, for example?
I wouldn't want to guess, because I don't want to give wrong figures on national TV.
Okay. Thank you very much for being very honest. Do you attend council meetings as an ex-official member?
I do.
Because you're supposed to.
I do.
And what's your impression when you attend these council meetings?
First of all, I'm happy for one thing. Our people, our council, the councillors are willing to be there. They so much want to participate in the business of the house, which is a very good thing. When you sit there, you get to learn that just some few things need to be worked on. The issue of capacity building for councils should be done regularly. You don't do it even just once and you think that is enough. The world is moving every day. The world is improving. There are new trends. There are technologies. So many things. So, what we need to do is always to keep the councils updated regularly. I have attended to this. They are doing a wonderful job. But they need somebody by their side. This decentralization should not be left alone. Who is breastfeeding it? Somebody should do something. And he has that question about the amount of money that we leave at the center vis-a-vis the money that we take down there. It is still wanting. Every day we keep on shouting here. And we say, but government, what is happening? Where are you? Hey, why do we take too much money to central government? And yet these are just the big buildings in Kampala. We are talking about posh vehicles. We are talking about people who are enjoying AC. We are talking about people who are just enjoying life. Yes. But what is it that we are doing down there? Yes, we don't want to say that the Kampala people are not doing anything. They are doing a lot of work. But the real thing is down there in the villages. So the balance must be captured. We have to arrive at that balance.
Do these
so that these councils can also function well.
Do the district councils, do they have capacity to actually raise taxes and the things that can actually help them going? Do they even have that?
That one is already gone. Let me tell you,
what's gone?
The issue of the capacity of raising taxes
it's
really gone. First of all, I've seen URA, Uganda Revenue Authority, coming now to open little offices and saying that we are the ones in the districts, we are the ones assessing. You come to a lockup and tell somebody in a year you are going to pay 300,000, you are going to pay 500,000. So we have left the traditional approaches of assessing the capacity. If you are coming as a businessman dealing in essential commodities, they don't come and really do the proper assessment to watch how you are moving and decide how much you are going to pay. But it's now you are ready to impose in most of the cases. So all that these districts are looking at is these markets. So if you look at the eastern Uganda, where are the powerful markets? You can count on Bukedia. That's a major market. On a Monday when you pass there, the whole road is covered with the vehicles. There's a lot of.
We talk about this roadside market.
The roadside markets
that happen once
once in a week, and it's only a few districts that have the giant markets of that nature. Even in those markets, there are a lot of fights over control. Who collects
by the local government?
Yes.
Who are they fighting with?
You know,
the politicians.
These markets are contracted out. They are contracted out to tenderers, but these tenderers, first of all, most of them are politically controlled to the extent that they don't remit all that they are supposed to remit. Yes, we have contracts which even say that you should be able to do this and this remit. If you don't, then this penalty is there. But how many of them have you seen going to courts of law? People don't want to do that. The corruption has entered the spinal cord of local governments to the extent that some people cannot talk about the sin there. You leave it there, you glorify sin. You can't do anything, you can't worship, you can't praise, you are just there. So that is how bad it can be. So what I can say is that local governments are struggling. The capacity to raise revenue is nearly not there. They used to rely on a graduated tax. From the time some people complain and say, let us abolish this tax, first of all, the cost of collecting it, and then what is so harsh, we cannot manage it, it is not meaningful, we say, let us drop it. So where do we go next? People talked about local service tax. This one is raised from the what? A few earnings. If you are a salary earner, they cut off from your pay slip. Somebody goes to a hotel, a guest house, they remove something small. But how much? How much? So where is the capacity even? What is it that they can collect from? Do they have maybe factories? At least you talk about Jinja, talk about Ubali, talk about Kampala. Here you have a lot of factories. But come to Kumi, we don't have a single factory. So where are we getting these taxes from? You are having a team of people who are all looking for health services. Where do they get the money from?
Okay.
You tax those who have economic what? Empowerment.
Mututa, you will come in on this after he's responded to it. You are the members of parliament, and you do the discussions, you plan for us, you debate about all the things, and at the end of the day, we will hear all of you struggling to actually have a district. You even actually use this as your campaign tool. That I advocated for the district, I advocated for this city, I did all these things. It gives you points or marks at the end of the day when you get back into elections to actually say, hey, remember, it is actually me who stood on the floor of parliament, the House is very clear, I advocated and I said we need a district here, so people look, we now have a district now. It benefits you because at the end of the day people remember you and say, Honorable Aogon discussed this, and of course we have this. But do you consider the economic viabilities of these particular districts when you are getting into them, when you're demanding for them? Did you look at those other niceties, the other underlying issues? Apart from saying we want to decentralize service delivery to the people, that we'll have a hospital in Kumi, we'll have this in Kumi, we'll have that in Kumi for people who are walking to maybe Bukede, or people who are going to Mbali, or people who are going to Soroti, will now be able to get the services here. But do you look at those other things, the economic viabilities of the issues, that as you're demanding for a district, because selfishly, Aogon wants to get a district because he wants to run away from the constituency where he has a problem with Jagenda, and he gets a municipality where we protest.
A soft spot.
A soft spot, because this is, we keep seeing these things. Mututa will come in on this particular one. I want you to help me understand whether you look at these things, or at the end of the day you just want to impress your people that we actually went and fished this for you, so here is a district for you.
Actually, by the time these proposals come to Parliament, to the floor, and the Minister of Local Government, the Minister and his staff would have already done their work. And they are the ones who are supposed to handle that. But if I was to make a comment, one, yes, as part of the criteria, maybe they can say, yes, where is the economic viability of this proposed administrative unit? Sometimes people forge them and say there is a market here. But if you ask,
forge the dream.
I would say so.
You would imagine.
Allow me to use that language, because if somebody says they have a market, but in that market you only sell 3 animals in a market on a market day. So how viable is it really?
3 animals, or maybe 300,000 each or 500,000.
So what are you talking about for a whole sub-county, for a whole district? So what is it? So I think while we're talking about trying to bring the services closer to the people, but in terms of economic viability, I'm telling you, we remain in a mess. We remain in a mess. That's what I want to admit. I cannot lie. I'm a Christian. I pray every Sunday, so I must respect myself and talk the truth. We remain in what? A mess. I'm sorry.
No, you're just being honest. Mututa, coming on that particular one, economic viability, the Honorable here says people who sell 3 cows, 3 animals on a market, they also demand for the decision. So we have a market.
Actually, that's the irony. Because when this comes, because of course, like I put it, the Minister of Local Government will come up with a list of new creations. These are the districts that some of them are asked for politically whenever the president has moved. And the generation is with the politicians, the connivance, of course, with the politicians, the MPs and the chairpersons and the district councils, who sit down and say, now we need a sub-county, we need a district, because at the end of it we are creating new constituencies, and you have seen like the numbers in Parliament now swelling ultimately. But the viability sometimes I think it's not the primary issue. It comes in later, because if it were issues of viability, then most of these units shouldn't have been created in the first place. Now, after you create them, then you need the government to facilitate this. You need like the chairman who was with us moments ago was telling you a lot of things. The government spending a lot of money on issues of administration. You have to have a vehicle for the chairman, you have to have a vehicle for the cow, other departments.
They actually give startup funds for those new administrative units.
Exactly.
Some startup funds. I remember when we were just crossing over from Mukubi to Bukedia in 2006, they said we are going to give the district at least some 100 million for starting
as a startup fund.
As a startup.
Yeah, but 100 million in a district, you can't even buy maybe one vehicle.
The vehicle now is 230.
So
230 million.
Yeah, so these are some of the issues, and that's why we are saying the members of Parliament, can't you for once now say, I think we have had enough of that chapter. Can't we stabilize and we work with the structures that we have now until such a time when the issue of viability is addressed, that we can have more of the districts and sub-counties. I mean, you're only creating superficial units, but the same population, not much has changed. So, in fact, when it comes to service delivery, the exceptional cases where people are saying, for us, when we were still under Kumi, we are not getting this, we are not. But there are also areas where you find that even when people were still together, were better than now that they are separated, other than politicians getting jobs. So some of these issues also need to be looked at if we are looking actually at serious issues of viability of some of these units.
Okay, well, we are still discussing, of course, Adalon, you saw some pictures here of what is happening. The voting is underway, going on, and that's the final bit of the process of elections this day. Later tonight, we'll, of course, know who the chairpersons of the different councils shall have been elected. As you can see, the numbers there are really very disappointing, but it's an electoral process, and those who come actually represent everybody. There's no way nowhere where an election can be cancelled to say we expected 100 people, so only 50 came. There's no minimum number of people come, so there's no quorum of actually who votes. So if a district that has 200,000 voters receives, or a place that has maybe 20,000 voters, if only 100 or 150 come to vote, then the chairman will come and say, I am the chairman seated in this council with my 102 votes, you know, representing the whole sub-county. I just right there, as you can see. But of course the Electoral Commission has done their bit. The honor structure ask the people to go and vote lies with now these politicians, the political parties, and the different players. But that's what it is as it continues to happen. Remember, we are looking at the EC voting roadmap wrap up here, and of course giving much attention to local governments and where it is. Back to you, Honorable Aogon.
Yes.
The budget financing for local governments is still very meager. It actually started up there, I think it was at 25, 26 or thereabout, and it's kept dropping steadily. But by the time you came to Parliament, it actually dropped, and we just talk about, I think the budget of 2019-2020 was about 9.2%. It's now gone to 8%. We worried that the budget for local government financing is actually just coming down, and you know the reality is that really this money can actually not help us develop or even serve the people at the grassroots. What do you think about that? Do you intend to give them some more money, or you think it's also not viable to put them in the budget as one of our priorities?
First of all, it's very, very important that we put them as a priority. But I think the problem is that we see things differently. As for me, I think that in local governments deserve more. There's somebody somewhere who is thinking that the opposite is the truth. So that becomes a bad contradiction. It's a very bad thing. But in my opinion, it is time we really rethink our position as a country. We need to prioritize these local governments. There's no way we can develop in isolation. We just gather ourselves in the urban centers and we feel that the country will move forward. How? All the food that we eat here comes from the villages. Most of the things, all the labor that we get in the town first starts rotating in the village. They come here after passing through the villages. So we need money there. Seriously. So this debate has always come up. For instance, I have ever been in the Public Service and Local Government Committee for at least a short while.
In Parliament?
Yes. I was there for a short time. And I realized that the members there have always been pushing for these budgets to be what? Improved. And the chairperson, through their Olga, have always been coming to that committee, asking an advocate, can you please do something and increase the money? But I think as a country, we decided to walk each person their way. We are not yet moving together. The things that we feel are priority, sometimes some people feel that should be the last. And it really, you can get a headache, you get ulcers, you get malaria, you just get swept off. The feeling is so bad. When you want something to happen but you can't get it. I can tell you even in that house, yes, you can speak and speak. But sometimes what you want doesn't come the way you want. You shouldn't lose your head. You don't need to fight. You don't fold your fingers ready to bang somebody. No. You have to be patient. I have learned that. When I was just coming here, I thought that I would just come, speak, and change things at a go. You just do like this, put a switch, and then things change. You find the local government is getting almost 50% of the budget. But what?
That's what you thought?
I thought so.
How long have you been in Parliament?
This now I'm coming for my second term.
You're coming for second
winding
term?
up with the first term.
Okay.
By May, I'll be done with the first term.
Okay. So you've just had the first term,
Yes.
and the people in Kum here, municipality, have given you another term.
Yes.
Which I think is important. Now let me ask a very basic question.
Very basic.
How much time does somebody need as a new entrant into Parliament?
Yes.
How much time do they need to actually know and understand how business works in Parliament?
You need a minimum of 5 years.
You need a minimum of 5 years.
5 years. So meaning that the first term is basically for learning.
So if you serve in Parliament and you don't get re-elected, then you've only learned.
You have only learned and you have learned to go home. So first term is basically meant to be for learning.
Learning.
Except for a few people who are really quicker than their normal performance rating, speed.
Okay.
Yes. So I have also tried to do something in the first term.
Okay.
Yes. So
your first time
clap for me because I did something.
Your first time in Parliament has been a learning expedition.
A learning one.
You've learned how to debate. You've learned how government works. You've learned how things are
done. Even just to stand up on the floor of that house to say, Madam Speaker, this is what I think, is not an easy thing. Hey, by the time I was graded as under excellent, I think I should clap for myself in Canada quietly in the street, because I'm telling you, first term is not a joke for anybody. For goodness sake, it's not easy.
Now, this brings me to another very important issue.
Sometimes we think about you think that when you want something from the minister, you have to shout at the minister. No. So there are things that you need to learn. You learn. So that's why I had to beg my people that please give me an opportunity. What you saw from me was just a small tip.
Okay.
But more is coming. Allow me a second time and you see.
And they allowed.
They allowed.
So now this next term for you is actually business.
Business.
Because you now know the business of the house.
Yes.
Now that's very important. Is it the same time that I need if I am elected as chairman of the district?
Exactly.
If I'm coming in for the first
time. First
it
of
is
all,
the same time that
once you are elected chairperson of a district, you will first of all come with that mind that I am the overall. You look at the whole district with its borders. I am the big man.
I am the
MPs, yes, they come here, but I am the big man because for me I cover all the borders,
And Auburn only takes the municipality.
Only the municipality.
Another takes the other constituency, and another the other constituency.
They first of all look at the population of the district, then they say, what population do you control as a constituency member? How many people? But when you talk about the chairman, LOC5,
how many MPs are you in Kumi?
We are 4.
You are 4. So you have one chairman.
And taking the whole one?
All the 4 of you.
All the 4 of you. So who are you to speak? First of all, the chairperson, when you have first term, first of all, there's that bossiness. You are the boss. Because you have come now and you are. So, hey, you need to learn, even to accept that, yes, you are the boss, but sometimes you need to work with the people. Number 2, you think about the contracts. Somebody comes out from the electorate and says, now I'm the chair, I've been elected. All the contracts in the districts are under my control. I'm the one who decides who takes over this market, who takes over this business, this is tender of the park, this one of this, and then the issue of jobs. I am the one to influence the district service commission as to whose child gets which job.
Whose child?
Whose child? Whose child? Yeah, you put it there. Whose child gets which job? Whether I'm qualified to get it. So you come with all that kind of what?
Yes.
But when you are a mature member, a mature chairperson, yes, you get to think that no, you are not meant to do that. You are supposed to to go above and really you think for the people, plan for the people, do things normally, do things naturally, don't segregate, don't go against the constitution, because now you are a mature person and you know what to do. Others will even think if this one is not a born of this area, they should not get a job. When you do so, you have denied that district an opportunity of getting the right labor force. Probably there's somebody who qualified well to do the right job.
But because I'm not
they said, this is Muganda. We failed with UBC, we can't give him the work. Give out. Yet for you knew what to do, you are the right person for the job. When you are still new, those are some of the things that you carry in your head.
Okay.
But I can tell you, once you have been there for some time, you get to drop them one by one, because you get to know what you are supposed to do.
Matuta, I've seen a problem here from what Honorable Auburn has exactly alluded to. If you need 5 years to just learn how business works and operates at Parliament, at the district level, at even maybe local council level, being a councillor, you need 5 years. Now, how about these districts that are having a new leader, maybe every other time, that you have time to learn, and after you've learned, then you're sent back home. Then they bring another Mututa to come and learn. As he also learns, then they kick him out and bring another. I'm looking at the problems that we have. And where do you see the future for local governments especially, if this is what happens? What do we need to do?
Those are where you have the high turnover of chairpersons and councillors in the district. Those are districts that will never have even their headquarters built. They are still in the old sub-county or some county headquarters where they're still housed up to now. But at the same time, the issue of corruption, and it's again the same premise upon which chairpersons and MPs come, especially chairpersons, because with MPs they can be exceptional. But the chairman will say, I want to bring jobs to my people. I want to give my people jobs. So if you become a chairperson, then as a matter of the promise you make, that you are going to give your people jobs, then you are going to live by that, means you are going to recruit. In any case, you are the one who is going to appoint the chairperson of the Service Commission anyway. And the council and the executive will be there to approve. So, and we have had a lot of issues with that in most of the districts, where you have had the chairman of the district, the chairman of the Service Commission, the secretary of the Service Commission, sometimes having issues with recruitments, because either they are recruiting people from their own families, if not, of course, their own district, so it's obvious. But that's why we're here when we are talking with chairman. So maybe something need to be looked at. It's part of the problems that why decentralization is having issues, because if you are going to be decentralized, then you also have the responsibility. It comes with responsibility. It doesn't come just because it is decentralization. And we have also seen that sometimes the MPs are not also helping a lot when it comes to that, because first of all, as an MP, there is that disconnect. He's at least among of the few ones who go back to attend some of these district councils. But most of the MPs will not appear in those district councils. First of all, the MPs are also scared of the increasing demands, because I mean, if you're MP coming to our council,
they're worried that they may buy lunch that day, they may buy all the water, the juices and everything, so they decide not to go.
Yeah, sometimes. But also that immediately then the bad blood begins developing between the chairman and some of his MPs. And we have seen to the extent that some MPs say, okay, chairman say, okay, if that's the case, I'm also going to stand in that constituency next time. So with this kind of arrangement, we now need to have a kind of arrangement where there is always a constant sitting and coordination, because members of parliament are going to pass budgets, fine, but they may not determine how much money is going to Kumi, because that it has a number of other things to look at to decide how much money will be given to Kumi for what. But then it will also be good when they sit down and say, if you are receiving this much money, what are our activities? In other words, this government planning, districts are very crucial in these plans, in budgeting. We should now, today we are electing members of the sub-county, the chairman and the members of the sub-county council. We should have their budgets and plans coming to the district, so that the district has a working document in terms of planning. And the MPs could then pick that information from that district back to parliament. You say, but for us in Kumi, this is what we want. So to the end that we have some of these plans also appearing in the national budget. And when there is that disconnect, sometimes then we have impulsive way of doing things. You have the need of finance saying we are sending this money to this district, but maybe we don't have I know that they were always having this information coming from districts backwards and the ministry, but there's the collaboration and the sitting together of the politicians, especially at that level, the chairperson and his council and his members of parliament, is very key if they are to move ahead. Because then if we say we have a health unit in this particular sub-county, all the MPs are sitting together and their chairman and saying, what can we do for this? Now that we have this, where else do we have this? But you know, everyone is pulling and pushing, and that to a greater extent affects the speed at which our development, especially in the local governments, is implemented.
Okay. Well, I think that's very important. Now, to you, Honorable Awogon, you just made a very good revelation to us here that you've been in Parliament for 5 years, and this has been your learning expedition. You've learned, and we expect now, we expect some miracles, quote unquote, from you coming in the 11th Parliament for your second time in here. But just look at the other issue, which is also the fact that for cows, they in a particular district for a term of 2 years. And I'm thinking now, a cow, because they also start somewhere, they also start someday. They're not cows every day, or they're not cows from since time immemorial. They also start somewhere, and you also write and say, my first posting was as cow for Kumi, maybe then went to Bukedea, then went to Mbale, then I was cow in Tororo. So you could have an experience of 10, 20 years, but of course you started somewhere. I just want to look at that relationship of a cow who is in a district for only 2 years and is moved to another district. And you have a chairperson here who is just learning business. Now, as you start to maybe learn, understand, get down to a few things, then the cow that you have leaves and you find another one. Do you look at it this also as good for service delivery, or it also just takes us back again?
Yeah, first of all, I think it depends on the quality of the cow, its character, its upbringing, its willingness to do the right thing. Because first of all, there is no way you would expect a cow to be given a similar treatment to maybe a member of parliament, that he should have a five-year term, then again come back so that you get to know things better. Because the cow in Bukedea does the similar work with the cow in Kampala, a cow in Bushenyi, a cow in Barara. So as long as you are a cow, you perform similar duties everywhere across the board. So you keep on gathering your experience. So there should be no cause of alarm. The problem maybe is adjusting to the environment of having a new member of the chairperson of a district, and then how you relate, managing those relations within a short time, and then you are transferred. But also it is dangerous to have cows stay in a place for such a long time. You know the consequences. That can be the real breeding spot for corruption. So sometimes it is better, it is good to rotate them. Maybe all we need to review is, if we are talking about 2 years, is it okay? Maybe we change it and expand it a little to a minimum of 3 years. Give somebody an opportunity, at least 1 year, to create a good rapport with those who are in the district already. The 2 years, do some work. Move to the next place. I think that will do. That will really work well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we'll just take a short break and return thereafter. But remember, we are just wrapping up the entire electoral roadmap for 2020-2021, and today is election day. So if you've not yet gone to do the voting, please find time, go vote. Voting closes at 4 o'clock. So please make sure that you go and vote for your local council leaders at that time, or at that particular sub-county where you're coming from. It's very important that these charged with delivering services to us, but the other issue that we all need to find an answer to is, will they really deliver the services? Do they know what awaits them as we get into this voting? But we'll take a break and return shortly. Don't go away.
It's no secret that ICT makes learning easy.
The strides made in our field could not be possible without it.
And now we can watch our favorite show.
My radio is my best friend.
UCC provides an enabling regulatory environment and policy guidance for healthy competition. We also facilitate ease of doing business in the communications sector through licensing, standardization, spectrum management, tariff regulation, rural communication development, and consumer empowerment. An informed consumer is an empowered consumer. UCC supports local content and innovations. Driving the development of a robust communication sector in Uganda is Uganda Communications Commission. this weekend on UBC.
You know, when God bless someone, or when God bless you, you become a blessing. You know, when you become a blessing, you can be able to
bless others.
Bless others.
The Ideation Corner is a space where ideas are discussed and dissected.
UBC, inspiring Uganda.
Stay connected to the largest 4G network in Uganda, anytime, anywhere, using the Airtel 4G Pocket MiFi, available at only 123,000 Uganda shillings. This comes with 15 GB free, valid for a month. You can connect up to 10 users at a go and still enjoy a shared yet unmatched internet experience. Dial *175*9# to activate free 15 GB. Visit the nearest Airtel shop to get one today. Airtel, the smartphone network. Airtel is regulated by the Uganda Communications Commission.
The day the world stopped was the day we found where to go. From now on, we are not going to leave anything on our plates, because we've learned to savor the moments that were always there, and they never tasted this good.
You may have heard of physical distancing. This means keeping at least 2 arms length apart from other people at all times to reduce the spread of coronavirus. But why is it so important? Without physical distancing, each person infected with coronavirus will infect 2 to 3 others. Each of these people go on to infect 2 to 3 more, who each go on to infect another 2 or 3 people, and so on. Within a month, the infection will spread from 1 to 406 people. But if each person halves the number of people they come into close contact with, the number of infections drops dramatically. Each person would only infect 1 or sometimes 2 people, and each of those infected people would only infect 1 or occasionally 2 more. So the disease spreads much more slowly. In a month, the infection would only spread from 1 to 15 people. That's the power of physical distancing. Keep at least 2 arms length distance from as many people as you can to reduce infections and save lives. That way you protect yourself, the people you love, and your country.
This message is brought to you by the Ministry of Health.
Uganda, the land of sunshine. Breathtaking, stunning sights, incredibly extensive large greenery. Variety of wild animals and bird species. A wide range of luxury holiday facilities. Diverse, rich culture. The home of beautiful, welcoming, hospitable people. Uganda, the Pearl of Africa.
Enjoy great value from Airtel with the all-new My Pakalast combo offers. We have customized especially for you the best deals on minutes, data, and SMS with our 3-in-1 My Pakalast combo to give you the best value as you stay in touch with friends and family. To activate My Pakalast voice combo, dial *100*2*1# to get started.
Airtel, the smartphone network.
And welcome to the backstage of this generation where the young and restless face the bold and beautiful.
It has been a very interesting journey.
First of all, people are noticing that comedy is a funny way of being serious.
You want to get a glimpse of Uganda's future through the eyes of the youth? You can with myself Drago on Chilling. That's every Sunday evening on UBC television.
Let me drink one for the road. Let me drink one for the road.
Cause you only need the light when it's burning low. Only miss the sun when it starts to snow. Only know you love her when you let her go.
No, I've never been someone shy until I seen your eyes. Still I had to try, yeah. Girl, every little thing I do it for you. In every little song I sing it for you.
The Girl Child is a program which started in 2017 by the President of Uganda with the main agenda of empowering girl child.
Manya gange nze Nakawuka Jacqueline
nawulira nga balanga ku radio mbu waliyo okuyiga enviiri ebyemikono ebisinga naye nga nayagala dde okuyiga enviiri ng'ate biri free of charge nga president yakitaddemu omukono nensalawo nenzijano ne bampandiika katale kewandegeya twakamala emyezi 2 nga tuyiga tusoma batuwa lunch batuwa transport batera mu budde ate tuyize ebintu bingi tulina abasomesa abalungi tuyize okusiba enviiri nga kristi tuyize kanasatu tuyize okusiba wiivu tumanyi okunaaza mu nviiri n'ebirala bingi byonna ebyetaago bwebiri tetulina kyetusasulira tetulina kyetukola ki tuleeta mitwe gyaffe nga tuyiga twebaza nnyo pulezidenti ne komiti ye okututeekamu ssente okulowooza ku mwana ow'obuwala kuba tubonaabona nnyo abaana ab'obuwala tumwebaza nnyo era tusaba akyongerere eddala mu maaso.
The initiative is focused in equipping the girls with skills like tailoring, knitting, weaving, bakery, shoemaking and hairdressing.
Kino kyennawo kati nsobola okutuula nze n'emikono gyange nekola ekintu ki eky'emikono. Since we are doing hairdressing, we added the capital they gave us. We expect to have a larger business than this. We expect something nice.
Buli lwokwata engato eno bwoti nobeera ng'osala bwoti making sure nti engalo zo ziri wansiko ku nkambe kuba osobola okukwata wano bwoti bw'oba okatambuza nkasala kitegeeza kajja kujja kakusale wano bwe kati engalo zikweke no wansi n'otambuza bwoti kitegeera ate olw'okuba nti kasobolera okuyitako ne kajja ne kakusala oba wano okyusa pozisioni y'engalo kitegeera neera n'okolaki n'otambuza kitegeera buli lw'otambuza akaso nga n'emikono gikolaki gikyuka giva mu pozisioni z'akaso kubanga bw'ona okalemezaayo kasobola okuba nga kasala nnyo kyosala n'okosa amaanyi mangi kiba kigenda kukwata ennyama kigisale n'ekirala okulaba nti ogoba layini ya kino ekintu kyewataddeko layini eno obutagiyingiramu n'obutakola ki n'obuteesala n'obutayingira mu ngatto kati kyova olaba nti akantu kano kabeera kasala nnyo evaayo ng'eri bweti ogiraba ng'eringa evudde ku mashini naye ng'ate tenagenda ku mashini kitegeeza bwena egenda ku mashini ejja kuba nnungi nnyo kusala ebisinga kati ngene ey'ekitengi ne bw'oba togitutte ku mashini kuba bw'ogitwalako oluwawu lugenda kulya luno olugoye erabike bubi kyolina okubeera omwegendereze nnyo ng'ogisala oleme gitwala ku mashini ezo giraba.
Kati wano tulinawo bano abawala era bakola engatto mu fashion ez'enjawulo ne mu colors ez'enjawulo.
Kino kyennawo kati nsobola okutuula nze n'emikono gyange nekola ekintu ki eky'emikono.
The initiative is focusing on reducing unemployment rates of youthful girls in Uganda.
It was for those girls who have not had an opportunity to have formal education to a reasonable level. People who, for one reason or another, maybe lack of school fees, maybe they got pregnant and the parents could not continue with them out of disappointments.
Nasoma nentuuka mu P7